their bio. Gonna ask them just simply briefly kind of share what got them into this work, and they're gonna give you a nice little beautiful interactive experience. Get this open around their philosophy of whole school, whole community, whole child approach through policy and advocacy. So real quick, gonna give you just a brief. Jessica Bauer Walker is the founder and executive director of CoNECT, Community Network for Engagement, Connection, and Transformation, based in Buffalo, New York, where she plays multiple roles as a community health worker, community organizer, lead trainer, and facilitator of collaborative projects. She has worked in the community building and civic engagement in local, national, and international contexts. She has served in the AmeriCorps and the U.S. Peace Corps as an organizer in 2 presidential campaigns and director of operations for Rock the Vote, and as a project manager for several agencies and initiatives ranging from nutrition to violence prevention to sexual health. She has worked with children, youth, and parents for several decades with a focus on systems change and family advocacy in public health and public education, and is the mother of 2 teenagers. Yes. And Nicolalita Rodriguez is the director and founder of Little People's Victory, where she works as a somatic trauma therapist and consultant utilizing dance, movement, and somatic practices as culturally empowering tools for individual and collective healing within frontline communities. She works with CoNECT as a community health worker, trainer, and facilitator on various projects and initiatives. She has worked in numerous nonprofit organizations in the human services and mental health field, primarily within school community settings, and continues to be active in community organizing circles in Buffalo. She's a lifelong dancer and integrates dance, movement, play, and joy into all the work that she does, right? So just a brief, man, 30 seconds or less. What was the inspiration that got you on this path? I can start with you, Jess, and then Nicolalita, then the show and floor is going to be yours.
Thank you so much, Rodney. It's so great to be with you, and I feel all the positive energy coming out of this group. So we really believe in the power of community and can definitely feel it in this space. And that's really what got me into this work, and especially mindfulness and embodiment work. Discovered this path when I was getting pretty burnt out and, needed to sustain myself and continuing to do this work. And it's really been a lifesaver in so many ways, helped me to help other people, and just continue to do this work on this path for liberation. So glad to be with you and excited to share some of the things that we've learned on our journey in just a moment.
Thank you for being here, and I appreciate that share. Nicolalita.
Hey, thanks for having us with you guys. It's great to be here. I think what really got me into this is kind of who I am. It's always who I've been. And then just having more knowledge and opportunity to spend in community, and building my own chosen family around that really strengthened, kind of, I guess, my willingness to explore and open up and really understand how much meditation and mindfulness, all of that can really help along not only an individual healing journey, but a collective and in community as well. So really just mirroring what a lot of our youth are going through as well, and just living that experience as well.
No, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, both of you. I'm going to just pull myself out the spotlight. The floor is going to be yours. Remove my spotlight. And let me know if you need anything from me on the back end. I'm right over here.
All right, thanks so much. So I'm gonna share my screen. We've got some slides to help guide our conversation and work together here. Everybody seeing this okay? Yes, thank you. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit today about the work that we do, kind of grounded in schools and working with youth and families, but in this very holistic type of format. So the beginning is going to be a little bit experiential and hands-on, because we want to be talking with you and not at you, and our philosophy is very much doing things with. So we're going to get some practice doing that to get us warmed up. And then we'll share a little bit about some of the work that we've done in Buffalo that we think people could learn from or try some things with elsewhere, and then leave some time at the end for conversation and Q&A, if that sounds okay to the group. All right, so the first little activity that we're going to do here, and Brother Rodney, I think you're going to help us with doing a poll once we put the next slide up, is we're just going to get us thinking about our perceptions around child and family wellness on kind of different levels. So a poll is going to launch. We're going to make a statement, and we're going to ask you to choose whether you agree, disagree, or are not sure, or have mixed feelings. And then we'll ask a couple people to weigh in each of those categories with why you feel that way. All right. So we're going to do the next slide and bounce it over to Nicolalita. And we can launch the first question on the poll.
All right, cool. So it looks like the poll popped up. So again, the question on that poll is, if a family has the appropriate knowledge and education, they will be able to make healthy choices. So on the poll, you can answer if you agree, disagree, or are not sure, have mixed feelings on that.
All right, and it looks like the other questions for the other ones are popping up, but just is it possible just to answer the first one, or is it going to make you answer the other ones?
First time making a poll. I'll answer all of them. Just answer the first one.
It's good. It's good. We're learning together.
I'll answer the second and third.
Yeah, so don't answer that second question yet. Just answer the first one to start.
All right, so it's looking like we have a lot of people that agree. A couple folks that are unsure. And maybe one or two people that disagree. But if a family has appropriate knowledge and education, they will be able to make healthy choices. Okay.
And I think most people have participated that are able to do so. I know some of y'all are moving around, so maybe we can end and have some conversation about why we chose what we chose.
All right, it looked like most people agreed with that statement. Does anybody want to either share in the chat or come off mute and just kind of share with us why you agreed with that? PJ, I see your hand.
I'm always have my hand up. So I love this, but I think if someone's not careful, they could look at it as black and white. And I think, like working in Asbury and working with my families, I think appropriate change, it can be something small. You know, do I think they're going to revamp their entire life? There might be challenges, because to be healthier, it also involves like healthier food choices, maybe different things, and sometimes resources are limited. But I think if they start changing their mindset, they just are aware and try to make step-by-step small choices, I think that's a win.
Great. Thank you. Anyone that disagreed want to share? Go for it. I see you. Yeah.
I chose disagree because I saw this question as, you can have all the knowledge and education and know what the better, I guess the healthier choice is, but unless you personally are willing to make those changes to make that healthier choice, I think there's that motivation factor too.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to weigh in on disagree or maybe unsure? Crickets. Anybody unsure, kind of in the middle, or have mixed feelings about this?
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
I thought they know what they need to do, but they financially might not be able to buy the better, healthier things. They might have to go with whatever's on sale, whatever's discounted.
Okay, so there might be some barriers there. Rodney, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, it's like, you could bring the horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. And like, I've experienced my times many times when we work in as a partner. There's a lot of resources that people are aware of. Sometimes it's shame, sometimes it's, fear of might having to be deported, but there's factors that like sometimes when people have that access don't always have the ability to take action for one reason or another.
Okay. All right, so it looks like we were kind of all over the place, but we have a lot of differing opinions on as terms of why. We either agree, disagree, or have some mixed feelings. So we got another one for you.
All right, so we're gonna go on to the next question, and we're gonna ask you one more. And this time, I think we'll just try to do it maybe in the chat. So why don't you let us know if you agree, disagree, or are not sure about this one. So this statement is, we can't change the system around us, so we should focus on building individual coping skills. How do you feel about that statement? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you not sure? Do you have mixed feelings?
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
We can't change the system around us, so we should focus on building individual coping skills. Agree, disagree, not sure, neutral, mixed feelings. So take a moment to think about that and let us know how you feel in the chat. See, we got a couple mixed feelings, and agree, another agree, mixed. No disagrees yet. Oh, we got to disagree. Thanks, Siobhan, for being the outlier here. Okay, we'll give it a couple more seconds. Anyone else want to weigh in the chat there? Glad that we got all viewpoints represented. Okay, so feel free to continue to put your opinion in the chat. Why don't we start with agree? Is anybody willing to lift up why they agree with the statement? We can't change the system around us, so we should focus on building individual coping skills. Anyone willing to represent that position? You can also weigh in the chat if you don't want to do it verbally.
I just put it in the chat. I said that, you rarely can change a system. It's like politics and all the other nonsense. It is what it is. The people have already made a decision. And so it's up to you to be able to manage your emotions and how you react to it and control what you can do to move forward or past it. So.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, thank you for representing the agree. And again, you feel free to, if other people have opinions, weigh in the chat there. Anybody want?
I would say, like, we were talking about the Maharishi project, and they had the Lebanon Peace Project, where, like, when people come together and we could build a field of coherence, you can transform systems from the inside out. So, kind of stretching out the question, right? I do think that individual coping skills and people being regulated, not in a reactive state, can begin to move mountains in ways that we don't always think would happen in a capacity. So that's why I can kind of agree. I put mixed feelings though, but as I read it out loud, I kind of changed my mind a little bit.
And it's okay. That's why we're doing this, to recognize that it's a bit complex here. Thank you for weighing in. All right. Anybody want to represent disagree?
I put disagree because, well, the first thing I thought was that can't is just such a definite word. I wouldn't say that you can't change the system. It might be a challenge to change the system, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's not something like I can't do this. So that's why I put disagree. Yeah, the more you continue to work on yourself and really place yourself, I feel like, in places where you can have opportunities to potentially change the system, it's a possibility. So that's why I put disagree, because I don't agree with it.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we had Rodney kind of straddling between agree and not sure on mixed feelings. Anybody else? There was quite a few people who said that they had mixed feelings about it. Anyone else want to share on the mixed feelings?
So I'll share. So then this one is very challenging, as the other one was a little easier. This one is very uncomfortable for me. For my first part is I want to always believe that change is possible, And when I'm looking at this, I think of when it's got to be either significant change. If it's a little bit, it doesn't matter. So I always think that it's really hard because it usually comes down to numbers, and it's like it has to be 60 or 70%, whereas the measures of success can be different. You know what I mean? That makes it challenging for me, because changing the system, if we can change the community and they have different individual coping skills, right? Say then they're going to handle the challenges, the stressors of their community, which might end up changing because they change. So I think if I look at it like, black or white, then I would say we can't. But I think it's like if there's a connection, it's interwoven. There's a marriage there between the individuals and the community and how they handle things and the system where the individuals are. I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So it seemed like a lot of people had some mixed feelings about that. So thank you for representing that position. All right. So we're warming up kind of with some thoughts about how all of this works from an individual, family to community and systemic level. Thank you for participating and sharing some of your thoughts and ideas. And we're going to do one more activity to get us thinking about these concepts a little bit. So I'm going to tell you a story here, and I'm going to ask you to think about what role you would play in this scenario. Okay, so we were going to do this by poll, but I think we can do this in the chat or just talk through it as well. So here's a situation, and Nicolalita, maybe I can just have you put the different roles in the chat as we talk through them too. And I'm going to stop sharing for a second. So you just saw school there, and this story is grounded in the school. There's a situation where there's a public health crisis that's breaking out and spreading through the schools. And it seems to be concentrated in certain schools and certain neighborhoods that tend to be low income and have high concentrations of Black, Indigenous, people of color, low test scores, underfunded schools. It seems to be a disparity, and kids are getting sick and we don't know why. The staff are starting to get sick, and it's spreading and kind of we don't know what to do. So you're going to decide what you're going to do in your role to be involved and see how you can assist with the situation. So the first role is to be a helper. And if you're a helper, you are going to just get out there and try to figure out what's going on, get some PPE, check in with the school nurses and the clinics, use whatever skills you have as an educator or mental health professional, or having some resources in the community. If kids are homesick, drop off food and supplies to families, just whatever you can really do to help, given the scale of the situation. The next role you could be is to be an advocate. So if you're an advocate, you're seeing that, there's a lot of disparities that are happening. There's more kids and staff getting sick in certain schools than others, and that's not right. And so if you decide to be an advocate, you're going to go to City Hall or wherever you need to go and just say, we're failing our kids and more resources need to go in a certain way, speak at the Board of Education meeting, and just make sure that this situation gets fixed as soon as possible. The next role that you could play is to be a researcher. So if you're a researcher, you're saying, we're not quite sure what's going on here, and we need to find out what's happening and have a research-based approach. And so I'm going to sit here, I'm going to try to figure out what's going on. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to use my skills around this so that we really have the best approach for understanding what we should be doing here. And the next role that we could play is to be an organizer. So at this point, this has been going on for a little while. It's total chaos. There's a lot of people who are doing good things, but it's very disorganized. Some of the schools have a very focused approach, other ones don't. Churches and mosques and faith communities are doing certain things, block clubs, community-based organizations, but everyone is sort of all over the place. And so if you're an organizer, you're going to try to get that all sorted out and get people working together more effectively. And the last role that you could play is to be a rebel. So if you're a rebel, you're just seeing all this chaos and dysfunction, all the stuff going on at a local level that's not working, nobody is helping, and you say, this stuff is not going to get worked out locally. I'm going to go to the state capitol. I'm going to go to the governor. I'm going to call the media. I'm going to get on a bus and organize, and I'm just going to camp out on the front lawn of the governor's mansion until we get some help in our community, because the system is messed up and we're always having stuff like this happen and we never get the help that we need. Okay, so that's the scenario. And we're going to ask you to weigh in, think about what the best role is to play here. Are you going to be a helper? Are you going to be an advocate? Are you going to be a researcher, an organizer, or a rebel? So take a moment, weigh in the chat if you can. And we'll just go through these roles quickly and see if anyone is willing to let us know why they chose the different role you would play. Okay, don't see anyone weighing in the chat yet, so hopefully we've got people in. Okay, we got a researcher. People a couple more seconds if you're able to weigh in the chat. All right, go. We got a helper in the mix. Got another helper. Got a helper / advocate. Helper. Jennifer's helper. That's my reflex. Okay. Quite a few helpers. All right, Rodney's bringing in with the rebel energy. Okay, Rue in the background there. He's going to be a rebel too. Okay, we got an advocate. Do we have all of our positions represented? I think we're missing one. But Nicolalita will step into that role if needed. Okay, let's hear from our helpers first. Anyone willing to either weigh in on the chat or verbally why you choose to be a helper? I heard Jennifer said, helper, that's my reflex. I don't know if you want to expand on that at all. Or anyone else that's a helper want to share why you chose helper?
Sure. I chose helper / advocate. Helper because, I mean, that's my nature. Something's happening, you gotta try to do what you can to fix it or help alleviate some of, suffering or discomfort at the start. And advocate because if it's something that's happening because of disparities and whatnot, there needs to be awareness. You need to, get as many resources available to help resolve the situation.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
I thought it was very interesting, and maybe there's a correlation with your questions before, because at first I was like, the system, people can do stuff, and then as you're talking about the different roles and the responsibilities, it makes you go, wow, what would I be willing to do? What could I do? Like, it was like, I would love to be a helper and make a difference. And then it's like, okay, but then you're going to people's homes, like extending yourself. Cause I do like the idea of being a helper. So I thought it was interesting. That was my comfort zone. That's my nature, but it's very interesting when you start looking at what's all entailed. It really takes a lot. You really have to be able to be committed and to go outside of your comfort zone or to really step up and be a voice or have action. So I was like, wow. So it was very interesting. I thought it was interesting.
Okay, so you ultimately picked helper, but you could see that
I picked helper, but I see now why, wow, some things don't change or get done because helper is a big role. But as you continue to share like a rebel and advocate, you really are got to be that voice for the people that don't have a voice. It's a lot of responsibility, a lot of work. You have to really be committed.
Okay, thank you for that. Anyone feel strongly about one of the other roles and why it's especially important?
I can speak about research. I teach middle school science, so by nature, that's what I do. And I just know back to COVID time, when it was happening, I was just researching, trying to figure out the essence of the problem. To me, even though that takes a lot of time, that can then educate my choices to help and or advocate, because I have a set of evidence to base everything that I do from that point forward on. And I think that, grounded, of course, in science, to me is a good foundation to make decisions from that, because I don't want to be helping in the wrong way. I don't want to advocate, but then realize I should have been advocating in a different way based on what I've discovered. So that's where I'm at with researching, is getting to the root of the problem, looking at the data and saying, okay, we're going to go in this direction. This is the direction that I feel I should go in.
Thank you, Bill. All right, did we have any organizers? All right, you're getting some support here. Let's go, Bill. Teach research for sure. Knowledge is power. All right. Nicolita, you going to be our organizer since we don't have any organizers here?
I will. I'm going to say that organizing is probably the most important here. There's a lot of people that feel very strongly about just kind of who they are and what they've been doing and really good at what they're doing. I'm really good at organizing. I've since captured the flag day. I couldn't run really fast, but I can tell everybody what to do. So I'm just going to be here telling everybody what to do because people need direction.
Okay. And we got a lone rebel out here.
You
Your
know,
brother Rodney?
I really feel I have a lot of trapped emotions, so I need to exercise my throat chakra to release a lot of this frustration. But I always had an innovative way of protesting, you know, like it doesn't have to be rah rah, but like taking the research from the Lebanon War Project and what we bring a large group of people together to, you know, send blessings and prayers for the best decision and really taking a more conscious approach, but bringing people together to rebel in a higher conscious way was like what kind of came to my mind. I got kids at home, I can't get arrested, so I got to make sure that I'm still being able to show up and make some noise, but making that noise on a etherical or quantum level where they may not even realize how powerful that could be. That's just my rebellious nature out loud.
All right. Okay, thank you all. So we use this activity just to kind of help demonstrate the different roles that we play in different times. And sometimes roles are much more represented. Sometimes in particular sectors, we're more comfortable being helpers. We had a lot of helpers in this group, right? We didn't have anyone that was organizing. Nicolita stepped into that role. We got one rebel. But just to see the different roles that are important to play when we're thinking about how to help in a situation. So we had this activity, we usually do it in person. It was a scenario before COVID happened, and then COVID happened, and we were sort of dealing with it in real terms. In Buffalo, we've had quite a few other crisis situations. We've had a mass shooting, we've had a deadly blizzard, and we've had to really work on figuring out how to help people immediately, and then also know that these issues have other implications too. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So we're going to move into sharing some examples that we have and how we approach systems change. And a lot of that is about what can I do on my own and what assets do I bring. So I heard a lot of you talk about this particular strengths or skills that you had, which are really important. What can I do with some help? So recognizing that there are other assets in the community and how can we align our assets? And then lastly, what is it someone else's job to do? So what are those structural issues where, you know, we can make our best efforts and we can collaborate, but there's some systems level issues that are at play that we need to address as well. So back over to you, Nicolita.
Great. So as Jessica said, one of the examples that we have and here in Buffalo is a whole school, whole community, whole child model or WISC model. Keyword there, whole. So what we're looking at here is a much more holistic model for our community, for our schools, and for our children. So we're really looking at incorporating what we call the social determinants of health. So looking at health not just as like the absence of disease, but also as where we live, how we live, what we have access to, how we can get to those places, all sorts of different ways that we can be healthy in the communities or schools that we're in. In addition to being a whole model in terms of the social determinants of health, we're also looking at ways that we can incorporate things like trauma-informed care, different things like that into this as well. Really looking at, instead of what's wrong, what happened or what's strong. So really focusing more on the assets that we have as a community and really uplifting and building into that rather than the deficits that we might have.
All right, so we use this framework for change, and again, it's a Centers for Disease Control and Prevention model, and also ACDS, which is a educational framework as well. So we'll send you some more information on this, or we'll have some links at the end. So one of the things that we did was apply this model in the work that we do in Buffalo Public Schools. Myself as a parent, Nicolita is a mental health professional, and we use this tool called the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. So that's a tool that you can use as a survey and gather information about different risk behaviors amongst youth as middle school and in high school level. There's other tools for younger children as well. But the parents had been going to board meetings, trying to help with situations that we were seeing happening and not making much progress. It was like, oh, just these parents coming to board meetings, hollering about stuff and complaining. When we actually got the Board of Education to do youth risk behavior survey and saw these really high risk behaviors around obesity, around sexual health, around mental health, we were able to get a comprehensive wellness policy passed in 2012. And that really set us on a journey to do a whole bunch of things. At that point, recess had been eliminated in Buffalo schools. And one of the first things we brought back, because recess is free, just requires workaround scheduling, was bringing back recess. We advocated for nutrition, a breakfast in the classroom program, and for a farm to school program and salad bars in all the schools. And a lot of this was driven by parents and students. The students were the ones who had this idea around getting salad bars in all the schools. And they set up a salad bar outside of a Board of Education meeting and served salad to the board members to get a farm to school program in our schools. We've had a huge community garden initiative, and this is a great project because it requires everybody working together. And we have all the stakeholders in the school community come out. And now we have, out of our about 50 plus schools in Buffalo Public Schools, we've got, I think, about 35 school community gardens. We have advocated for more physical education. We found out that Buffalo Schools was out of compliance with state education standards. Actually filed a legal complaint on this one because this was a much heavier lift, but had a multi-year advocacy campaign that got us 35 more physical education teachers and moved Buffalo Schools into compliance. We have worked to coordinate parent, student, and community feedback on some really tough issues like a condom availability program, code of conduct, and a gender identity policy, again, using a very participatory and community-based format. Nicolalita, I'm gonna bounce it back over to you.
All right. So we've also worked together on several youth-led initiatives. Wellness Our Way, or WOW events, is one example of that. Really just redefining what wellness is and showcasing all of the different types of ways we can practice wellness in our communities. Primarily led by our school wellness teams. So our school wellness teams, we were able to get established, or hopefully established, supposedly established in all of our Buffalo public schools. And this really is a multidisciplinary team made up of various stakeholders in the school community. So that is administrators, students, which very often are overlooked, although this is for them. It could be our school nurse, community partners, teachers, counselors, support staff, different folks like that.
So this is an actual school wellness team meeting at International School 45, where I was a parent, and Nicolalita used to be a counselor there. And we have some of our friends from Holistic Life Foundation who I think are coming in to talk to you if they have not already. Is that right, Brother Rodney?
Yeah, they're coming in December. They'll be here in December.
Okay, cool. So they're sitting in the circle with us, and we sit in circle. We do a restorative check-in like you do here. We do a mindfulness practice, and we talk about issues that are important to us. We identify the youth in particular that are working on this team right now feel very strongly about environmental health and have formed a green team and started a whole recycling initiative at the school. Again, very youth driven with adult support and community engagement as well. And so it's a great collaborative way to get all these different stakeholders. And we know that all these issues are interconnected. And like Nicolalita said, an interdisciplinary team that can identify both needs and assets and really work together and make sure that parents, students, and community partners are at the table.
Great. So we've also had several mobilization and outreach efforts. This really kicked off during the COVID-19 pandemic, but really hasn't stopped. So we've done several different events in community, in schools, just around building community-based support around social justice initiatives. And again, almost all of our initiatives are youth-led or youth-centered.
So most recently, I said I'm a parent of teenagers. I started this workout when my daughter was in kindergarten and not getting any recess or physical education and needed to move. So fast forward to she's 16 and getting suspended because she still needs to move and has other needs. Buffalo Schools has an incredibly high rate of suspensions has been cited by the state for the high and disproportionate rates of suspension. And we know that the root cause of those are unmet needs. I don't think I probably need to tell this group that. So we've been really working on how to address that, both the high numbers and the disproportionality around children of color, low-income children, and children with disabilities being suspended at rates that are 2 times plus that of their peers. So that's been an issue that's been identified by the youth, and with strong support from parents and community partners, the youth have again built an advocacy campaign. This is a picture from the front page of the Buffalo News, and we've got a lot of media coverage and attention, and are doing great work with that, again, youth driven, and really trying to center the voices of youth. This other picture here is, it's not just the high schoolers. We work to engage even the youngest kids to get feedback and use participatory frameworks. So just like we did in the beginning with those agree, disagree statements, we will have a meeting and say something like, my school is a healthy place, and all the stakeholders will agree, disagree, right? And then we'll ask the children, you know, if they say their school is healthy, what do you like about your school? How is it healthy? And they'll share their ideas. If they don't feel that way, same thing, right? So setting up those participatory types of spaces and calling data from that too, right? We'll take qualitative data and we'll take that back to the superintendent or the Board of Education and really advocate for those issues that seem to be top of mind to students and parents. So some of the lessons we've learned in doing this work for over a decade is that it's not just one thing. There's no one thing that we can do to fix things. And a lot of it is process related issues. So communication, coordination, and collaboration is key. And systems change happens by aligning policy, practices, and programs, right? One example I'll share is what one of our partners is the Erie County Restorative Justice Coalition that does a lot of conflict resolution and restorative practices. And they said when we opened a session with a mindfulness practice that they realized how powerful that was, because it helped to kind of de-escalate and get everybody in a calm place so that we could engage in a restorative conference, right? And then we've worked on the policy level to make sure that we're having a restorative versus punitive system in our code of conduct. So all those pieces are aligned in the work that we do, and it can't just be one thing. We really focus on both the needs and the strengths. We have a lot of needs in Buffalo and in Buffalo Public Schools, but we also have a lot of assets and strength, and we continue to amplify that, especially amongst parents and students. And so with that, we work on a shared decision-making framework. So that wellness team is a great example. There's other ways that we can make sure we set up meetings and trainings and events. When we train our youth to do something like a mindfulness practice, then we ask them to lead it as well, right? We try to share as much power and engage in shared decision making, because we all have different perspectives and all those perspectives are valuable. Just like the activity that we did, we need the helpers, we need the organizers, we need the rebels, we need everybody there. So we're working on really supporting parent and student leadership. We ourselves are community health workers. I'm a parent, and so I understand what the experiences of our parents in Buffalo schools, and we have that peer-to-peer model. We've trained students as community health workers in that model too. And so that's one of the ways that we support parent and student leadership. And again, really trying to center directly impacted individuals and design initiatives in ways that are responsive to them in a community and culturally responsive and trauma-informed way. And the last piece is we make sure we're having fun. So we have events, we try to feed people and have music and do different things. So it's not just about kind of fighting the system, but we're making sure that we're keeping ourselves energized and creating spaces for community building as we engage in policy and systems change. So that's a very quick version of some of the work that we've done and some of the frameworks. Here's a short list of resources as well, both from us as well as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, American School Health Association, and a link to the Buffalo Schools Wellness Policy, which we believe is a template. It's not been easy work. We've had our ups and downs in terms of implementation, but it's been recognized by New York State, and we won several national awards. It's kind of a best practice framework. So those are some links if you'd like to dig in and learn more. And thank you so much.